They're crunchy, fiery, and coated in so much spice you can see the red dust from space. Takis have become the snack that separates the brave from the cautious, turning grown adults into heat-seeking snack addicts. But here's what most people don't realize about those rolled red tubes of fire. Creating them is way more complicated than you'd think. What you're about to discover isn't just another spicy snack story. It's about how making the perfect Takis requires solving an engineering puzzle that had food scientists scratching their heads for years. Because the real challenge isn't making them hot enough to make you sweat. It's figuring out how to roll delicate corn dough into perfect spirals without them falling apart, then coating every single groove with that legendary spice blend. Today we're taking you behind the scenes, where ancient corn preparation meets modern snack science, and where one small mistake can turn thousands of bags into expensive red dust. Every bag of Takis starts with something you'd never expect: whole kernel corn that looks nothing like the fiery spirals you know. This isn't sweet corn from your backyard barbecue. This is specially selected field corn that's about to undergo a transformation that's been used in Mexico for thousands of years. The corn gets cooked in massive vats with lime water in a process called nixtamalization. Sounds fancy, but it's basically an ancient technique that breaks down the tough outer hull and changes the corn structure. After about 90 minutes of cooking and washing, those hard kernels become soft, plump, and ready for the next step. Here's the cool part. This lime treatment doesn't just soften the corn, it actually makes it more nutritious and gives it the perfect texture for rolling. The transformed corn gets ground into masa flour, but not into a smooth paste. The grinding is carefully controlled to create just the right texture, smooth enough to roll without cracking, but with enough structure to survive the intense frying and seasoning process ahead. What you end up with is a dough that's perfectly balanced, not too wet, not too dry, and ready to become those iconic spirals. Now comes the part that makes Takis unique, turning flat dough into those distinctive rolled tubes. This is where things get tricky because you're working with a very narrow window of time and temperature. The masa gets pressed into thin sheets, kind of like making tortillas but much more precise. These sheets need to be exactly the right thickness. We're talking about precision that would make a Swiss watchmaker proud. And here's where things get really interesting. Each sheet has to be cut into perfect triangles and rolled into spirals while the dough is still at exactly the right temperature. The rolling machines are custom-built pieces of equipment that don't exist anywhere else in the food industry. They grab each rectangle and curl it into a tight spiral in less than a second. The timing is critical because the dough only stays workable for about 90 seconds after it's cut. What's really clever is how they create that tapered cone shape. The rolling drums operate at slightly different speeds, which naturally creates the wider to narrower spiral that helps Takis hold more seasoning in those grooves. The rolled chips come off the line looking like tiny corn tornadoes, but they're still soft and need to get to the fryers immediately before they lose their shape. This is where the magic happens. Those soft, pale spirals dive into oil heated to exactly 375 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to lock in their shape instantly, but not so hot they burn before cooking through. The fryers aren't just big vats of oil. They're precision systems with multiple temperature zones. The first zone flash fries the outside, sealing the spiral shape like setting it in concrete. The second zone finishes the cooking, driving out moisture and developing those complex corn flavors. Here's something cool. The chips have to maintain their hollow spiral structure throughout frying, creating little pockets that will trap all that spicy seasoning. The whole process takes exactly 47 seconds. Any longer and they become too brittle. Any shorter and they stay soggy. Every chip spends the exact time in the oil thanks to precisely calibrated conveyor belts. The oil quality is constantly monitored and replaced when sensors detect it's breaking down. This ensures every batch has that clean corn flavor that lets the seasonings really pop. What emerges are golden, crispy spirals that look almost like Takis, except they're missing the most important part, that legendary fiery coating. This is where ordinary corn chips transform into the tongue-scorching legends that have launched 1,000 TikTok challenges. The Fuego seasoning isn't just chili powder, it's a complex blend of over 30 ingredients, each precisely measured. You've got chili powders for heat, citric acid for tang, natural lime flavoring for that bright kick, and a bunch of other spices that create that distinctive Takis taste that's impossible to replicate at home. But here's the tricky part: getting that seasoning to stick evenly to every groove and curve of those spiral chips. The seasoning happens in massive rotating drums that look like cement mixers, but way more sophisticated. First, chips get sprayed with heated oil that acts like glue for the dry seasonings. Then comes the main event. The seasoning blend gets applied while drums rotate at exactly the right speed. Too fast and chips break apart. Too slow and seasoning doesn't distribute evenly. The drums are heated to help flavors penetrate the chip's surface. The whole process takes about 4.5 minutes of constant tumbling to ensure every spiral groove gets packed with that fiery goodness. What comes out are the Takis you recognize. Intensely flavored, perfectly coated, and ready to challenge your taste buds. Before any bag gets sealed, every batch goes through more testing than you'd expect. Quality teams check everything from crunch levels to heat intensity, making sure every bag delivers the same fiery experience. One of the coolest tests uses special equipment to measure exactly how much force it takes to break each chip, ensuring that perfect, satisfying crunch. They also use infrared cameras to check that spicy coating is evenly distributed. They even have professional taste testers who can detect tiny variations in spice levels that regular people might not notice. The packaging process requires special considerations because of all that intense seasoning. Bags are made from multiple protective layers, and each one gets flushed with nitrogen gas to push out oxygen before sealing. This keeps the chips fresh and prevents that red seasoning from fading. While Fuego might be the most famous, Takis come in several varieties for different heat tolerances. Blue heat for maximum fire, Nitro for smoky kick, and milder versions for international markets. Takis have become way more than just a snack. They're a cultural phenomenon. From viral challenges to taste test videos, these rolled chips have introduced people worldwide to extreme snack foods. Starting in Mexico, they've exploded in the US and are spreading globally. And manufacturers are constantly experimenting with new flavors and shapes, so who knows what fiery innovations are coming next. In recent years, Takis has stepped up their environmental game by partnering with TerraCycle, a company that specializes in recycling hard-to-recycle materials. Through this partnership, Takis fans can now collect their empty chip bags and send them to TerraCycle for proper recycling, rather than throwing them in regular trash where they'd end up in landfills. The program turns what used to be waste into new products like park benches and playground equipment. It's a pretty cool way for spice lovers to enjoy their favorite fiery snacks while doing something good for the planet. So the next time you're brave enough to tackle a bag of Fuego and feel that familiar burn, remember all the precision engineering behind those perfect spirals of fire. From ancient corn techniques to modern seasoning technology, every chip represents an impressive balance of tradition and innovation. What's your Takis tolerance level? Are you Team Fuego, or do you stick to milder flavors? Drop your spice level in the comments, and if this made you appreciate the science behind your favorite fiery snacks, hit that like button and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes food stories. Thanks for watching.